Welcome to Communicate to Lead, the podcast that empowers leaders and aspiring leaders to communicate with clarity and impact. I'm Kele Belton, CEO and successful entrepreneur, and your host for today. I'm here to equip you with all the essential tools and strategies to master effective communication and lead your team to success. As the founder and CEO of The Tailored Approach, my goal is to empower you to be the best leader you can be. So sit back, relax, and join me in today's episode as we dive into the art of communicating like a true leader. Not quite ready. 3 words. 2.5 years of exceptional work. And that's what she walked away with. She had the numbers up 15%, team retention improved, 2 major process improvements implemented. She wasn't just doing her job, she was doing parts of the job above her. And her manager smiled when he said it, like he was doing her a favor. So she sat in her car afterward and asked herself the question I hear from women leaders all the time. What more do I need to do? Here's what I want you to know before we go any further. It was never about doing more. She was already doing enough. What she was missing was visibility. And those are not the same thing. Today, we are talking about the visibility gap, why capable women get overlooked even when the results are there, and 3 specific strategies to close it, not by working harder, but by being seen more clearly. Welcome back to Communicate to Lead. I'm here every Thursday with relatable stories, actionable strategies, and frameworks you can apply immediately to your leadership story. I'm your host, Kele Belton, and since we're stepping into a brand new month, there's no better time to get intentional about how you're showing up and being seen. So let's make this month count. If you're listening and realizing you've become the silent partner, essential but invisible, I did a full episode on what I call the high performer trap and the 4-phase leadership reset. That was episode 135, and I will link to it in the show notes, so go ahead and go check it out. Today, I want to zoom in on one piece of that, the visibility gap and what you can do about it, because this is costing too many capable women real opportunities. Women are doing strong work, leading well, and still getting passed over. If you've ever wondered, why am I not getting the opportunities I expected? Or what more do I need to do to be seen as leadership material? You are in the right place. Because here is what matters. Visibility is not about being flashy. It's about being clear, strategic, and known for the value you bring. Before we dive into the heart of today's episode, I want to ask for a quick favor. If this podcast has ever given you language, clarity, or confidence in your leadership, would you take 2 minutes to leave a review? Every review helps more women leaders find the show. And that means more women getting the tools they need to grow, advocate for themselves, and lead with more confidence. I read and appreciate every single one. Okay, let's get into it. Here's the truth. In many organizations, being excellent at your work is not the same thing as being seen as ready for the next level. That sounds harsh, I know, but it's true. So many women are trained to focus on performance. Deliver the work, be dependable, don't make waves, stay focused, keep proving yourself. And those things definitely matter. But at some point, excellence becomes expected. What matters more is whether people see you as strategic, connected, and influential. That is where the visibility gap shows up. And this gap is the space between what you are actually capable of and how others perceive your readiness. And for women, that gap can be widened by things like being overly helpful, staying heads down, not talking about impact, or assuming people will notice your work without being reminded. And let me say this clearly. If you are waiting for good work to speak for itself, you may be waiting for a very long time. The people who get promoted are usually not the people who do good work only. They are the people who make their work visible in the right way. And that does not mean bragging. It means positioning. It means making sure decision makers understand what you are doing, why it matters, and how it connects to broader business goals. That is the shift. So why does this happen? There are a few reasons this plays out the way it does. First, Women are often socialized to be competent before they are visible. We learn to be helpful, dependable, and low maintenance. Those are not bad traits, by the way, but they can work against us if they keep you behind the scenes too long. Second, women are often evaluated on their potential in ways that are less than fair. A man may be seen as ready because he sounds confident and strategic. A woman may be told she needs more experience even when she has already been doing parts of the next level job. Third, many women are in roles where they are over-functioning for everyone else. They are the problem solvers, the fixers, the ones smoothing things over. But if nobody knows the scope of their leadership, they get pigeonholed as reliable operators rather than strategic leaders. That is the visibility gap. And the good news is that it can be closed. I'm going to share 3 strategies with you so that you know exactly what you can do to close your visibility gap. The first is what I call the strategic share. This is one intentional conversation each week where you share 2 things: the impact you have already made and the strategic direction you are heading. A lot of women talk about what they are busy with. Far fewer talk clearly about what they are driving. Here's the difference. Instead of saying, I've been working on things, say, I led the team through a process improvement that reduced turnaround time by 20%, and I'm focused on how we can scale that across the department. That sounds different because it is different. It tells people that you deliver results, understand the bigger picture, and think beyond your task list. So here's a simple script that you can use. I want to share a result I'm proud of. We achieved, and then share the specific result. What I'm focused on next is, then share the strategic priority. I'd value your perspective on how I can keep building in that direction. That conversation does a lot of work. It makes you leadership visible without making you feel fake or over-promotional. It's not about bragging. It's not about promoting yourself. It's simply about sharing this with someone strategic, sharing this with someone who can take this further than you probably can. The second strategy is to build a signature project. This is one high visibility deliverable that lets people experience your leadership beyond your everyday responsibilities. It might be a cross-functional initiative, a team development program, an internal process improvement, a thought leadership piece, or a project that solves a real business problem. The key is that it should not only be important, it should also be visible. You want others to see it, and especially you want senior leaders, you want executives to see what you're doing. A signature project gives people something concrete to associate with your leadership. It creates a story that they can tell about you. And here's what matters. Your signature project should connect your work to strategic outcomes. Not, I helped with the project, but I improved efficiency. I increased team alignment. I strengthened retention. I created a better client experience. I helped the organization solve a meaningful problem. When you can connect your work to strategic impact, you stop being seen as a hard worker and start being seen as a leader who moves the business forward. And ultimately, that's what you are already doing. It's simply talking about it. The third strategy is making a sponsorship ask. I know this is where a lot of women get uncomfortable because asking for support can feel too direct. It can seem that you are incapable of doing this yourself. But if you want to be seen, you need people who will speak for you, who will speak on your behalf when you are not in the room. A sponsor is not someone who likes you. Well, not necessarily. A sponsor is someone who is willing to advocate for your growth, your visibility, and your next move. And you do not have to make this awkward. You could say something as simple as, I've been thinking about my next step into a more senior role. I'd really value your perspective on what it would take for me to get there. And I'd appreciate your support as I grow in that direction. That is professional, that is clear, and that is strategic. It's a few sentences that you share with someone where you make the ask. Because the mistake many women make is assuming that their work alone will create sponsorship. But sponsorship usually happens through relationship, trust, and repeated visibility. You need to build relationships with strategic people, and then you can make that ask. That means you have to make your goals known. You do not have to demand, you do not have to force it, but you definitely do need to be clear about it. Now, let me come back to the client from the beginning of the episode. The woman who got the 3 words, not quite ready. She had been promised a promotion 2.5 years earlier. And every time she followed up, she was told she was not ready. What was really happening? She was strong in execution, but she was not yet positioned as strategic enough for the next level. So we worked on 3 things. First, she built stronger strategic relationships across the organization. She stopped focusing solely on getting the work done and became more intentional about how she connected with people. Second, she deepened her relationships with her team and the executive team. That matters because leadership is relational. People do not promote performance. They promote trust. They promote people they trust. Third, she got much clearer about the strategic impact of her work. She started talking about outcomes, not tasks. That changed how people saw her. 6 months later, she got the promotion. Not because she finally became ready. She had been ready, but now others could actually see it too. And that is why this conversation matters. Sometimes the breakthrough is not about doing more. It's about being seen differently. So here is your one action for this week. Pick one person who could influence your next opportunity and have your one strategic share conversation with them. Tell them one result you are proud of and share one strategic direction you are moving toward. That is your whole assignment. One person, one conversation this week. Visibility is not built in a month. It is built one intentional conversation at a time. And this is how you start. So I kept this episode strategically shorter so you can spend more time implementing instead of listening to the episode. So if you need to go back and re-listen to the episode, please do so. And once you have listened to the episode again, sit down and be sure to share your impact and the work that you're doing with others. And don't stop there. Don't stop at the one person with the one conversation this week. What can you do next week? What can you do the week after that? And that is how consistency will build your visibility. And that is how you close that gap. If this episode resonated with you, I want to invite you to join the Ignite Your Leadership Power Accelerator waitlist. The spring cohort kicked off today, and you can register for the waitlist so you are the first to know when the accelerator opens again. The link is in the show notes. And if you know one woman who's doing excellent work, but is still not getting the opportunities she deserves, send this episode to her. She needs to hear that being overlooked is not the end of her story. Here's what I invite you to take with you today. Being valuable is not always enough. You also have to be visible. You do not need to become louder or less like yourself. You need to become clearer about your value, more intentional about your relationships, and more strategic about how your leadership shows up. That's how you close the visibility gap. Until next Thursday, my friend, I am Kele, reminding you that great communication is the foundation of inspiring leadership. Keep learning, keep growing, and remember to communicate to lead.